let me see. Yeah, Symes. Yes, Shendel Symes. So again, a tremendous Hakara Satov to every single woman who gets on every single day and shares with us and teaches us and learns with us and helps us to grow. So really, such a Hakara Satov, I have no words. So Shendel Symes grew up in Queens, New York, when her husband, Rabbi Yehuda Symes, got smicha from Yeshiva Chofetz Chaim. The family relocated to Ottawa, Canada. As active members in their community, their goal was to create a Kiddush Hashem. Even more so, after the horrific accident that rendered Rabbi Symes a quadriplegic, both in home and in the classroom, Shendel strives, after the horrific accident that rendered Rabbi Symes a quadriplegic. Shendel strives to create a warm and nurturing atmosphere, feeling joy in life and accepting Hashem's will. Currently, Shendel is living in Queens with her children. She is the founder of Binoseha, Women's Center for Advanced Learning, in memory of her husband. Shendel teaches in Hadar Beis Yaakov High School and Mechaneches in TBY Seminary. Her book, chronicling her husband's life, was just accepted for publication. I feel very honored and privileged, and thank you, Shendel, for being so kind to come on and speak to us and share with us. Are you there?
I'm here. Thank you so much for having me on today. I look forward to spending some time with you. I'm just going to try the share screen, which is really, here we go, sorry. Okay, so thank you so much, everybody, for taking this time to learn together, to grow together. I was deciding what to speak about today, and of course, there are always so many topics and so many nuances that one can focus in on. But what I wanted to focus on something which I think sometimes doesn't get as much attention, or sometimes it gets too much attention that we minimize the importance of it. So what I would like to share from you today is a portion from the Chidushei Halev. It is a sefer based on the talks of the Rosh Hashiva, Rav Alter Chanach Henoch from Yeshivas Chafetz Chaim. Actually, my son is named after him. He was a great inspiration in our life, and his goal and his message was about the godless ha'adam, the greatness of man. And I thought that would be something nice that we could discuss today, being that we are in the 3 weeks. We have already had the fast of Yud Zayin Tammuz. We're coming up on Rosh Chodesh Av, and we are hoping that, by the time Tisha B'Av comes around, we will not have to fast this year. And what better way to try to make that happen would be by our interpersonal relationships, how we deal with people that we come across every day, the nuances of derech eretz, of the ways of the world, of mannerisms. And is that really so important? And is that really a part of the Torah? Where does that fall? And that is what my goal is today, to show you the chashivos, the importance of derech eretz, to show you from several examples in the Torah of people who had derech eretz under extreme situations where one might think they not had to, and how we can apply that to our daily life so that going forward, we can focus on small changes. We know that if we try to take on something great, to take on something big, it could be overwhelming. It can become too enormous of a challenge. But by picking something quote unquote small, or by picking something which is manageable, we can further grow in our avodas Hashem. We can grow in our bein adam lechavero. And we know that since the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed because of sinas chinam, I think that this is one way that we can overcompensate by having avas chinam, by showing love for other people and showing that we respect them. So let's take a look at Benos Slavchan. In last week's Parsha, they approached Moshe Rabbeinu because Moshe was giving out and ordering the parts of the Nachalos, the portions in the land of Eretz Yisrael, and who was going to get what. And they too had a chavivos for Eretz Yisrael. They too had a love of the land, and they were anxious to get a portion in the land just as their brethren were. But we know that they were 5 sisters. There was no father, there were no brothers. They weren't sure yet what the halacha was. Would they be able to get this nachla as they so much hoped and so much desired? So I have some underlying lines here. We'll focus on those as we continue in this thought. Batikravna ben Oslafchad, ben Chefer, ben Gilad, ben Machir, ben Menashe. The daughters of Tzlafchad, who is the son of Chefer, the son of Gilad, the son of Machir, the son of Menashe, it traces their heritage way up to Yosef. And it tells us that they approached to Moshe. Gedula lahen ugedula la'avihen. It was a greatness for them. It was a greatness for their father. Gedula la'machir, gedula li'Yosef. It was a greatness for their father, their grandfather, their great-grandfather, all the way up. Shekach yatzu mimeno nashim chachamos utzidkanios. That these righteous and wise women came from them. Ma chachmasan. What was so wise about them? What made them so praiseworthy that they are considered to be smart? Shelafi sha'a dibru. Shahaya Moshe osek beparshas nachalos la'ela techalei ka'aretz. That they waited, that they came to Moshe when they had the request of the nachalos, of the portions of the land, at the time that Moshe was actually discussing the portions of the land and discovering from Hashem who he should give out the portions of the land to. Amrulo, they said to him, Im keven, anuni rash keven. If we have the position of a son, if we hold that position, then we should rightfully inherit the land as if we were a son. Ve'im lav, and if not, if we don't qualify in that way, tisyabem imenu, then our mother should do the mitzvah of Ibum to have another child to make us eligible for the land. Miyad, immediately, vayakrev Moshe es mishpatam lifnei Hashem. Moshe immediately was able to go to Hashem and find out what is the halacha. What should I do? Do I give them this portion or do I not? So now we say that upeirosh hamtanos kahuna, the matnos kahuna says that chelefi sha'a b'sha'a ube'ez hagun dibru, that they spoke at the right time, that they didn't come to Moshe at just a random time, that they didn't come to Moshe just whenever or in the middle of something else to ask for the request. Rather, they waited until Moshe was actually having that discussion and discussing those halachos. Now, think about it. Shevach gadol shebchu chazal es bnos lafchad. This is a very, very great praise and a very great distinguished honor that Chazal, our Chachamim, gave to the daughters of Tzlafchad. And not only to them, but also to their ancestors, to everyone who came from them. But now let's take a look. Mahi chachmasan, big deal. What is such a chachma? What is such a knowledge? What made them so righteous and so smart? Shemtinu bebakashas chelek ba'aretz Yisrael ad shenisasek Moshe. So they waited. Zumidas derech eretz. This is derech eretz, and that's what made it so great. What does that mean? Derech eretz. How is this derech eretz, and why is it so great? And the answer is because of the following thought. Benos Tzlafchad were very anxious and were very desperate in their love of Eretz Yisrael and in their love of receiving a portion in Eretz Yisrael. And they really, really wanted it. And in fact, it's a mitzvah to want Eretz Yisrael. It's a mitzvah to have Yishuv Haaretz. It's a mitzvah to live in the land. So you might think that is reason makdim in lemitzvos, that one who wants to do a mitzvah should hurry up right away and perform that mitzvah. Back when they knew that they were going to go into Eretz Yisrael, they should have come to Moshe right away then and said to Moshe, what should we do? Find us the halacha. Do we get a portion in the land or do we not? However, it tells us that no, they didn't. They didn't do it right away. Rather, that they waited, that even though they so much wanted to perform a mitzvah, and there is an inyan, there is a condition of needing to do a mitzvah immediately, especially a mitzvah that is l'shem shamayim, for the sake of heaven, we still tzarich linhog b'derech eretz. One still must withhold and must still act in the way of derech eretz. V'yoter chashuv linhog b'derech eretz me likayem es ha-mitzvah bizrizas. What they did shows their chachma. What they did shows their presence of mind, that even though they wanted to be involved in a mitzvah, and even though the mitzvah they wanted to do it right away, they waited. They waited for the opportune time because it would have been inappropriate to bring it up at another time. Do you know how long they waited? Not 1 minute, not 2 minutes, right? We tried to teach our children, if we're on the phone, 1 minute, please, say, excuse me, be patient. They didn't wait 1 minute or two, not even 1 week or 1 year. They waited for 40 years. They knew from the beginning that there was going to be Yishuv Haaretz. They knew that their goal of leaving Mitzrayim, of getting the Torah, was to enter Eretz Yisrael. Yet they waited for 40 years for the right time to bring it up. Shema alascha hagdola shel benos lachad haisa hashlita ha'atzamis, that their great chachma, their great wisdom was in their self-control, that they held themselves back and they waited. Because what we have to also understand is that their chachma had to be more than ordinary chachma. Because chachma, knowledge, wisdom, understanding, that's all a gift that's granted to us from Hashem. Hashem bestows that gift. We can't praise somebody for their chachma. It says, Al yishalel chacham b'chachmaso. Shlomo HaMelech in Mishlei says, don't praise, a person who's smart can't praise themselves. It's not something that they did. It's not something that they earned. Maybe not even something they deserved. It was a gift that they received from Hashem. So why are we praising the Bnos Lefchad? For their extra wisdom. The wisdom that they were not born with. The chachma that was not in their brain, rather their chachma that was worked on, that they were not given nitenes ba'adam b'shas leida. They were not given this ability when they were born. Chachma zu hi totza'ah shel avodah rabbah shel chinuch atzmi. This wisdom, this knowledge, this patience, this using their contemplative skills, this was a shevach to them because it was something that they developed and it was something that they honed in on. Yesh anashim shehasovrim shedavar kalhu lehisnaheg b'derech eretz. We might think that it's easy to act with derech eretz. We might think that it's for children. We might think that it's a lesson that we teach to little people. Ve'ein tzorach lahashkia ba'avoda rabbah. How hard could it be? How much effort do we have to put into it? No, it can't be that it's that much. But from the Devarim, from the words of our Chazal, we see from here, Sha'adam zakuk lechachma gedola v'avodah rabbah kedei lahargil es atzmo lisnaheg b'derech aretz. One has to work on themselves, and one has to strengthen themselves, and one has to perfect the art, so to speak, to become better at derech eretz. So that's what we're going to focus on in the minutes that we have left. How can we perfect our derech eretz? What can we do to show that we care about another? How can we hone our chachma, our bina yasera? As women, we are certainly granted extra chachma. Let's hone in on that and let's use it to our advantage to help our personal relationships and to grow closer to Hashem. The Michtav Melio explains that derech eretz is hisnahagus yeshara v'yafa. It's behavior which is proper and good, klape habrios uklape atzmo, towards others and to ourselves. Umesnaheg bechol davar b'seichel uvadinas. And we approach things that come towards us. We approach our obstacles. We approach our decisions with wisdom and with adinas, like the name Adina. My daughter's name is Malka Adina. It means fine, with a refinement and a way of proper approach. Rav Nassim Tzvi Finkel, the Alter of Tzolbatka, explains that midos and derech eretz are actually a prerequisite for proper emunah, so that we are perfecting our midos, we are strengthening our emunah and Hashem. We can see that from one of the very first psukim in the Torah, where Hashem says, Na'aseh Adam b'tzalmenu, let us make man. And the Mefarshim tell us, of course, there was nobody else. There was only Hashem. Hashem was the only one who was making man. Yet he asked, quote unquote, permission. And he, quote unquote, consulted with the Malachim to let them know what he was going to do, and he alone. Yet when one looks at that word, it leaves it open to misinterpretation. For example, even in the times of Talmud, by Targum Shivim, when the 70 rabbis were secluded and had to translate the entire Torah by themselves for the purpose of a libel of Talmud, they changed this word. All of them, E'eseh Adam, I will make man, because they did not want Talmud to think, and what others can think, that there's another being in the world that is powerful. However, Hashem himself, and Hashem in his great honor, and Hashem in his great kavod, Hashem wrote that because Hashem wanted to teach us the importance of Derech Eretz. And Hashem wanted to teach us how important Derech Eretz is, that is even important that there are those that may misread and miscommunicate this pasuk and twist it and distort it to learn that message. And that's how important it was. Let's think now, what can we do? Let's take an example and apply it to our daily life. When Moshe Rabbeinu was on Har Sinai, we know that Moshe went up on Har Sinai no less than 3 times to be in the presence of Hashem, to get the luchos, first and second, to get kapara for Bnei Yisrael, for the egel. And while he was up there, he was in the presence of malachim, and the Torah tells us that for 40 days and 40 nights, he neither drank nor ate. That's physically not possible. A human needs sustenance to survive. Yet, when Moshe Rabbeinu was up on Har Sinai, Chazal tell us that Hashem made a nes, and Hashem caused Moshe to be able to live like a malach, that he was able to survive, and he did not eat or drink because of the midah of Derech Eretz, because one needs to act appropriately in the situation in which they are, in the location in which they are. In Basa letoch ir, when you come to a city, ata tzarich le'echoz b'minhaga. When you come to a place, you must take upon yourself the customs of that place. When you go to somebody's home, when you go visiting, when you go to a new shul, and there are certain customs, there are certain minhagim, quote unquote, as we say in the vernacular, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. That is derech eretz, to do what other people are doing. Obviously, it's talking about, the proper things to do. And similarly speaking, when the Malachim came to Avram Avinu, there is a very strong discussion in the Medrash that Rabbi Tanchum says that he is of the opinion, and as are others, that when the Malachim came to Avram, they actually did eat and drink the food that Avram prepared for them. Avram did not know that they were Malachim. He thought that they were people. And in the guise of people, they ate as people because they were amongst humans. Again, that is a nes performed by Hashem to show us the importance of Derech Eretz. So let's have that in mind. When we are in somebody's home, let's act with Derech Eretz. Let's take on the way that they act, the way that they do. We'll be mindful and pay attention to social norms that are around us when we spend time with others. Now, we all know that not every day is easy. We wake up in the morning, sometimes we are tired, sometimes we are exhausted, sometimes we just have so much on our plate. We have so much to manage, and everybody should live and be well. But we know that in this world, we are subject to challenges, some harder, some easier, some more minor, but there are challenges. So I may say to myself, you know what? I'm going through something really challenging right now. I'm just overwhelmed right now. I should get a pass. I should be excused. This really doesn't apply to me right now. But I'll tell you something. When Avram Avinu came back from Akedas Yitzchak, that was the 10th and final nisayon that he received from Hashem to prove his faithfulness in Hashem. He came back to discover that Sarah had passed away. His beloved wife was gone. He needed to bury her as quickly as possible. He wanted to eulogize her. He wanted to mourn her. Yet to add insult to injury, he was unable to find the location that was at a good price to bury her. Ephron Hachiti was at the time living in the land, and he was charging an exorbitant fee to Avram to bury Sarah. And it tells us that Ephron knew very well that Hashem promised the land to Avram. People knew he was called a Sar, he was called an officer of Hashem, because they knew that he was going to receive the inheritance from Hashem. And Ephron wanted to take advantage of him. And he made up some kind of rule that we can't give you any land because there's a law in the land that says non-citizens or strangers, they're not able to have burial plots. They have to purchase it. So Avram did. And it describes to us that Avram, even though he was in tremendous tsar, having just come back from a big nisayon to find an even greater, another great nisayon, he still dealt with Ephron with derech eretz. He did not use his mourning. He did not use his grief. He did not use his challenge to his advantage and to cause another person pain and distress, regardless of who that other person was, who certainly was not deserving of any kavod, of any honor, of any respect, we would think. It says that Avram said, Mipnei sha'ani b'tsa'ar, lo tzarich hasheni lispo. Because I am in sorrow, because I am in mourning, because I am in anguish, another person doesn't need to suffer as well. So let's bear in mind that it may take us a bit more effort and to pay attention to the conscious effort that it may take us when we're going through a challenging time to be mindful of having derech eretz to other people, and both in action and maybe even in our facial expressions. It tells us that our face is reshus harabim. Our face is public property. When we look at other people with a smile on our face, we radiate joy, we radiate happiness, and that is derech eretz. When one is sad and shows that face to the world, that leads to opposite feelings. So let's be mindful of that. I'm busy. We're all so busy. We wake up in the morning with a list of to-do things from today until tomorrow and from yesterday. Sometimes I discover that my to-do list today is half the things that I planned on doing yesterday, if not even the day before. So certainly we have an excuse. I'm in a rush. I have things to get to. I have appointments to attend. I have people to take care of. People are counting on me. But it tells us, Vayeshev Moshe es divrei ha'am el Hashem. Moshe was engaged in a very busy activity. Moshe Rabbeinu was engaged in a very important task. He was preparing Bnei Israel to receive the Torah. And Hashem said to Moshe, tell me, what did Bnei Israel say when you asked them if they want to receive the Torah? And Moshe comes back to Hashem and he returns the answer. He gives a response. Naaseh v'nishma. They said, we will do and we will listen. Certainly Hashem knew the response. Moshe, we would think, did not have to go back and tell Hashem the response. Certainly the one that sent him knew what the answer was and was going to be. Yet Moshe, despite his busyness and despite the importance of his task, he went back to Hashem to report back. And the Torah, once again, is teaching us the importance of derech eretz. My daughter went up to camp for Shabbos, and she came home on Monday morning to discover that she had left her laptop in camp. And she was pretty distressed about that because she has college classes to attend online. I was pretty distressed about that because I was counting on using it this morning to give my shir to you and to meet you. But she was able to arrange, we put on a chesed chat, is anyone from Queens, anyone have any leads? How can we get this laptop back? And it turns out that there was somebody in camp who was going to Brooklyn. And somebody on the chat responded that they work in Brooklyn and they could bring the laptop from Brooklyn to us. And then my daughter was relieved when she got a phone call from the person to report back, okay, just wanted you to know the laptop is safe and sound. I dropped it off at the ride. Small things, but so meaningful to report back and let someone know that something was taken care of. Give a response, take them out of their worry, take them out of their anxiousness. As we mentioned before, I lived in Canada for 17 years. Canada is pretty close to the States. It's about an 8-hour drive from New York City. And though it's two different countries and two different governments, I was driving to New York once, and my friend had to mail a very important document. I don't know if it was a tax document, I don't remember specifically. And she wanted to mail it from the States, as it would be a more reliable way of it getting to its destination in time. So when I got to the States, I mailed the letter as requested. And then I thought to myself, she's probably nervous. This is pretty important. She warned me so many times how important it was. I was terrified actually to take the letter. I made sure to mail it in the soonest mailbox as soon as we crossed the border. And I let her know, by the way, the letter was mailed. She was so appreciative. That is derech eretz. Again, this is something, small ways that we can show that we care about others and increases our avas chinam. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, the Nasi, the leader of Bnei Israel at the time of the Chorban Beis HaMikdash, it said about him, Lo hikdimo adam shalom ba'olam afilu nachri bashuk. There was never anyone that was able to greet him first before he greeted them. He was always the one who was makdim shalom. He was always the one to greet the other person first. He had the burdens of the entire Jewish people on his head. He had the entire burdens of the Jewish people on his mind. The Beis HaMikdash was being destroyed, and he had to take care of the Jewish people. Certainly, no one would feel bad. No one would have anything against him if he was like his mind slipped or if he was distracted. But it implies that no, he was never distracted enough to not greet another person. When you're going on your morning exercise walk and you see somebody crossing the street or walking past you, good morning, greet the other person. Shabbos afternoon, going on a stroll, good Shabbos. Again, this is all easy ways that we can have derech eretz for another person. As times people may feel that, there's no place in the Torah where it says derech eretz. Here are the laws of derech eretz. Here are the rules. We don't encompass every situation. Like we know what the situations are for milk and meat, or situations about what we can and can't do on Shabbos. Yet the Torah is replete with examples, and we could go on and on and on and explain different situations where we take lessons from the Torah about the importance of derech eretz. And we know that it can be challenging at times, but if we focus our chitzon mashpia al hapnim, our outward actions influence our inward actions. By picking a few of these ideas, we will be improving ourselves, our relationships with those around us, and thereby creating a greater connection to Hashem. And in the zechus of that, and in the zechus of our striving, we should be zoche to the building of the Beis HaMikdash, b'mheira b'yameinu, and hopefully Tisha B'Av soon will be a Yom Tov. Thank you so much, and have a great day.
Shendel, thank you so much. That was so beautiful.
Amen. Thank you so much.
That was so amazing. That was beautiful, Shendel. Thank you so much. Everybody, don't leave. We're going to do Shmiras Halashon. Shendel, what's the name of the book that's coming out?
So the title that I have it as is Rolling Rabbi. That's the name of my husband's blog, rollingrabbi.com. It encompasses his blog post where he talks about his situation and what he learned from the situation. And it's a two-tone story. I'm hoping that that's what the title stays, but we're still in the initial stages. So it's Rolling Rabbi about Yehuda Symes.
I heard it that someone had told me that the CBC, when you lived in Canada, CBC interviewed him because he was such a man of Amunah and B'tachon that they interviewed him. How many years ago was that? What?
11 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's 11 years ago, but we lost him 4 years ago. He survived nearly 7 years after the accident with the utmost emunah, bitachon, and simchas hachayim, just the joy in being alive and whatever he could do each and every day.
Wow. 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 In the schus of everything you do, you should have an aliyas neshama and be a Meilitz Yosher for your whole family and for Am Yisrael. We should just have geula.
Yes.
Geula.
See, PC